Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this Advantage All Men as Allies webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. First of all, please note that this webinar is available in English, French, and Spanish. So please select the language you would like to listen to from the interpretation box that you have below on your screen. Today, we're joined by ITF Vice President and Advantage All Committee Chair Katrina Adams, ITF Vice President and Treasurer Renee Stombach, ITF Board Member and Constitutional Committee Chair Jack Graham, and Tennis Canada Past Chair and Davis Cup Committee Member Jennifer Bishop. There will be time for a live Q&A at the end of the session, so please type your questions into the Q&A box below at any time throughout the presentation. So now I'll pass over to Katrina Adams.
Hello, everyone. As chair of the Advantage All Committee, I'd like to welcome you to this first Men as Allies webinar. Advantage All is all about how to make tennis an equal advantage sport. We know that tennis is good in terms of gender balance at participation level, but it becomes less equal at the higher levels of the game and in terms of the number of women who are coaches, officials, or in leadership positions. We know from feedback from successful women, both in tennis and other spheres of life, that men have had an important role to play. Billie Jean King often cites the importance of the male advocates that helped her throughout her career, both on and off the court. In terms of my career, I've been lucky enough to have a number of male allies who have championed my development and supported me when the going got tough. And for example, these are men who are past presidents of the USTA who truly supported me, believed me, and backed me as I moved up the ranks. One in particular, Dave Haggerty, who was my predecessor as the USTA president. I'll now hand it back to Dave to give us an overview of this exciting Men as Allies program. Please join us, make your commitment, and help make a difference to tennis.
Thank you, Kat. And thank you for your leadership and expertise within the Advantage All gender equality strategy. I'd now like to give you a brief overview of the Men as Allies program, which was launched on International Women's Day this year. The vision of the ITF gender equality strategy, which is called Advantage All, as you know, is to develop and maintain tennis as an equal advantage sport. By delivering a range of Advantage All initiatives, we aim to empower, inspire, and enable women and girls to reach their full potential, both on and off the court. The constitutional reform that was approved at the 2022 ITF AGM will see gender balance on the ITF board by 2027. But we want to do more than that. We want to see more women in senior roles in every nation in leadership, coaching, and officiating. There's still a long way to go, and we need to work both top down and bottom up to help ensure that we have women ready to step into more senior roles at all levels and in all aspects of the sport. We've recognized that the role of men is fundamental to achieving our Advantage All goals, and that's why we are here today. Remember that gender equality is not an option. It's our collective obligation. Here's a quick reminder of the 5 Advantage All pillars: empowerment, balance, culture, value, and voice. The Men as Allies program spans across all 5. First, it's about empowering women so we have more women leaders, coaches, and officials. We want to provide balanced opportunities to participate and enjoy tennis from grassroots up. We want to create a culture that eliminates bias and discrimination with buy-in right from the top. We aim to raise the commercial value and appeal of women's tennis with balanced earnings potential, greater sponsor appeal, and of course, fan exposure. And finally, voice, raising awareness and ensuring balanced portrayal with equal visibility and media coverage for women's tennis. Let's look at the goals for this program. First, we want to make tangible contributions to the Advantage All goals and reinforce tennis as a platform for gender equality. This involves identifying and engaging male champions or allies willing to commit to tackling gender equality within their own spheres of influence and beyond. We've recognized that the role of men is fundamental to achieving these Advantage All goals. This includes not only National Association presidents and general secretaries, but male coaches, officials, media representatives such as commentators, as well as players, former players, and other influencers. And here are our objectives. First, to encourage male leaders to pledge their support, champion change, and advocate for women. Many of you have committed to our I Pledge initiative, in fact, over 85 nations. But it's not just about commitment. The hard part is taking action. Second, to promote cultural or organizational change using the Advantage All program tools. We have a toolkit with guides and supporting documents, which include how to write your own strategy guide, balance the board guide, and brand and communications guide, as well as a self-assessment questionnaire to help you identify what your priorities are. All of these tools are available through itftennis.com website, or just reach out to the Advantage All team. The third objective is all about raising global awareness of Advantage All and its goals with a balanced media portrayal. All of our Advantage All male allies will be expected to make organizational and personal commitments that contribute to the Advantage All goals and encourage others to follow suit. Our Advantage All strategy has some tough targets in terms of increasing the number of women in leadership positions, the number of women coaches and officials, as well as delivering a more balanced media portrayal globally. Here are some of the commitments you could make as a male ally to help achieve these outcomes. We'll hear from Renee Stambach about his commitments around women leaders, but a great starting point is committing to a gender equality strategy. I mentioned the Write Your Own Strategy toolkit, as well as a self-assessment questionnaire that can help you get started and to identify your priorities. It could be that you wish to focus on increasing the number of women coaches through your own national coach development plan, asking mentors or role models to get involved. Or in terms of officiating, you could commit to hosting more courses or promote the career opportunities through a national officiating ambassador. The Advantage All Reward and Recognition Program is a great way to promote the work of your nation. So if you've had success, please do let us know about it. So let's hear from Renee about his commitments to gender equality. Renee, you've been an advocate and mentor for women at Swiss tennis. Why is being a male ally important to you?
Thank you, Dave, and good day to everybody. I think, first of all, bluntly said, it's a matter of mathematics. There's much more male leadership persons around than women. That's not only on the international level, that's also on national level, specifically in my country. I think it's also a natural duty of the men to become allies, to develop, to push more women into, to convince more women to have positions in leadership and coaching, as we heard before, and of course with officials. I'll come back to that later on. Having said that, many studies which we have on all levels, associations, sports federations, but also enterprises, prove that diversity in leadership committees are helping to come to better solutions. So I personally believe in that. I don't personally believe in quota, I have to say. I think you have to do it. You just have to be practical, go forward as an example and do it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Renee, and you certainly have demonstrated that. We have a lot of people online today that are looking for advice and trying to understand what commitments that they may want to make. So would you mind talking a little bit about the commitments that you've made in order to be an ally?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very short, and can also, because of the time, concentrate on some items. First of all, the leadership at Swiss Tennis, we have a board of 11 people, and we have a presidential committee within that, which is 3 people consisting of the president speaking, but 2 vice presidents who are both female. That is something I could do. I proposed it to the AGM, and the 2 female committee members were unanimously elected. Then there's other things, like in the executive management in 2022, we had 40% of women, and also there you have to do it. Unfortunately, we dropped down because one of the women got pregnant, but she's gonna be back, and so we're going back to the 40% at some point, hopefully. What I also did is, and I think that's very important, to start a campaign on incentivizing women to be part of leadership officials and also coaching. And I have 2 ambassadors, both female, Martina Hingis, known to everybody, and also Timea Baczynski, a former top 10 player. They're helping us a lot in this concrete action, which we did this year, for example. We started it only a couple months ago, is that when you play tournaments in Switzerland or interclubs, you need a license. And for this year, as we became the Billie Jean King Cup defending champion, we started an action where we offered licenses free of cost. Normally they're about $70, so we offered it free of cost to girls and women. And after 6 weeks, we had already 1,200 women and girls taking these licenses and competing. I think that's what I mean when I said before, you have to do it. You don't have to write rules. You don't have to do quota. You just have to go forward and do something. So that is just a couple of things. What's coming up is we planned some leadership and club management forums, webinars for women only, with a fantastic result. People are attending, they are interested, but it's only since we speak about it. And that's my main message. You have to speak about gender equality. You have to make people aware that there is a problem out there and that we are here to solve that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Renee. Those were great, tangible examples of what you've done. And I think that's exactly what our male leaders need to understand. And it's a great program to have the licenses for young women and young girls to be able to play. So terrific. And thank you for what you're doing. So final question. What advice would you give to other male colleagues that are on our webinar today?
Well, I think, as I already said, more or less, make it a challenge to yourself. Make it a challenge to yourself, and commit to what you think is necessary to do. Don't write big articles, big pages of rules and regulations. Go for it. Do it. Go to women and convince them to be part of your committee, of an officiating seminar, of anything which you offer within your federations. I think it's really important that you start to organize webinars and courses for women, where women are having priority to participate and share your experience. That's what it is.
Well, thank you, Renee. And obviously, you've done a great job of getting involved and showing that initiative, so we can all learn from that. So thank you for this great example of your male allyship.
Thank you.
So moving on, we will now hear from Jack Graham and Jennifer Bishop in an interview with ITF Senior Executive Director of Communications, Heather Bowler, about their personal experiences of being and having a male ally.
So good afternoon. We're absolutely delighted to welcome Jack Graham, ITF board member and chair of the Constitutional Committee, who spearheaded the gender balance reform for the Constitution that will take effect in 2027. So we're extremely pleased to have Jack with us today. And with Jack is Jennifer Bishop. Jennifer Bishop is past chair of Tennis Canada, currently ITF Davis Cup committee member, part of the ITF Advantage All leadership program, and recently appointed to the Canadian Olympic Committee Governance and Ethics Board. So welcome, Jack and Jennifer. I think I'd perhaps start with a question for you, Jack, this is very much linked to the work that the committee did around the constitutional reform. And I just wanted to quote something that you said at the time and ask you a question on the back of it. So at the time you said, this vote by the ITF member national associations is a true statement of inclusion at its highest level of our government and puts us on the right side of history. So based on that, what benefits does having a gender balanced board actually bring to any sports governance?
Well, I think, Heather, to start, we have to think about it in the context of our sport. We're a sport that's played pretty well equally by women and men. If we believe that women should be playing the sport, then they should also be managing and governing the sport. And there's no reason why not. There's lots of evidence in many different kinds of organizations, not just sporting organizations, but corporate organizations, a law firm that I lead, where having more balanced boards make for more effective boards. They make for diversity of thought, different approaches to problem solving, and different leadership styles and structures. So boards that have more diversity and certainly more gender diversity have proven to be more effective in the corporate world and in the not-for-profit world. And that's where we need to be.
Yeah, that's very, very true words. And so how did you and Jennifer connect, and how far back does that go? And sort of what is the relationship that you've built over the years in terms of actually sort of mentoring or championing and being an ally for Jennifer?
Well, interestingly, Jennifer and I, despite the fact that we're from the same region of Canada, didn't meet until I heard a lot about Jennifer as a player and as a person, but we didn't meet until after she joined the Tennis Canada board. And if I'm not mistaken, she reached out to me and wanted to ask me about my experiences on the Tennis Canada board. And I quickly recognized that she understood the game, and she wanted to make change, and she wanted to advance the kinds of things that I was interested in. And it's easy to find people to occupy positions on boards. It's not easy to find people, regardless of gender, that really want to do things. So that became evident to me early on, and as a consequence, whether I was a mentor or a champion, I don't know, but I have a pretty good eye for talent, and so we've talked very regularly about tennis and about Tennis Canada and about the ITF. So I'm happy to help out in any way I can.
Okay, well, Jennifer, I think what have you got to say to that?
First of all, I just like to make the comment that when I'm asked about what the biggest challenge might be that I faced in my career as a woman, it's clear that it's about opportunity and pathway. People giving you the opportunities, people believing in you, there being a visible pathway to success. And I, like many other women, suffered from imposter syndrome. And when I first met Jack, I was at the point in my career where my brain sort of knew that I had the ability to start stepping up and leading in sport, but my body was telling me that perhaps I needed to wait my turn, or perhaps the time isn't now. And I am grateful for having received a tap on the shoulder, and certainly for having received the confidence of Jack to even consider putting my hat in the ring as chair of the board for Tennis Canada. So I've been very, very fortunate to have a number of male allies and mentors and champions throughout my career, and absolutely critical to my success.
So Jennifer, I think, I mean, you talk about sort of, you know, feeling that you may not necessarily have had confidence to step forward, but you know, I think there's also an environment, and you know, was there any a moment when you felt that, you know, your experiences differed in some way to those of your male colleagues?
Certainly. I mean, I would say on the Tennis Canada board, we have been very fortunate. We don't quite have gender balance yet, but we are almost there. We're at 60-40 right now. We just appointed another female member to our board from the region of Alberta, which we're very, very proud of. So on the board, when matters of gender arise, gender equity, it's quite often the men around the table who are raising the issues before the women. And for that, we're very grateful. The men around the table work in corporate cultures where they recognize it's absolutely a priority to have diversity of thought. And while there remain times where I have to raise my hand and say, well, are we also doing this for our women? And how much money are we spending on our women's development versus our men's development in grassroots, for example, or in pipelines? Most of the time, I've been very, very fortunate in Canada to have the support of the board.
So, Jack, I think a question to you would be, I mean, you've always been at the forefront of gender representation and spearheading that, and I think at this point, you know, for the people who are tuning in today, you know, what kind of advice would you give to your other male colleagues in terms of sort of stepping up and really helping to move us forward in terms of gender balance?
I think, Heather, it's really important for people to understand that none of this happens by accident. You have to be very deliberative about the approach, and you have to also debunk the myths of women's participation in governance of sport. The myths like women aren't interested, or women may want to play tennis, but they don't want to govern tennis. And I've seen in my own profession, in the practice of law, those same kind of myths exist in the practice of law 20 or 30 years ago. You need to break those things down. You need to have a strategy. You need to be able to reach out proactively and develop strategies and approaches to identify talented women that can make a contribution. It's not going to happen organically in many cases, and it's one of the reasons why, even with our constitutional change, sometimes you have to push a little bit further. Sometimes you have to put a marker out there that says it's not good enough to have it happen organically. You need to push a lot harder. And sometimes that pushing means you need to make actual structural changes inside your organization that says, this is important enough to us to do it well. And I go back to the root of the issue. If you believe in women's tennis, which we all do, and if you acknowledge that women play our game globally almost as much as men, there is absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be governing the game at a much higher level.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. And I think there's we would all absolutely 100% agree with that. And I think before we wrap, is there any question you'd like to ask each other, or any comment you have to make before we leave?
Just on a personal note, I I want to compliment the ITF for what they are doing with respect to this initiative. At my law firm, I lead the sports media and entertainment group, and I do a lot of work with sports organizations globally. And on many occasions, I find myself telling leaders in those sports areas to look at what the ITF is doing. Go on their website, look at the Advantage All. And not only am I grateful to be part of a sport where women have the opportunity, we still have a ways to go, but to earn equal prize money in certain events and they have a voice, but also to have leadership that has made this a key priority. And it seems to me that we are not looking around to see what everybody else is doing. We are looking to see what the gold standard is and trying to achieve that. So I want to thank the ITF, and I'm really grateful to be part of the community.
Well,
And
Jack?
I would say particularly to the male leaders, I would say have a program, be systematic about it. And as I mentioned earlier, don't rely on the myths of women not wanting to participate. Reach out actively and recognize that it's an obligation, it's a responsibility of sports organizations to have more balanced leadership in their federations.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Jack, and thank you both for joining us today, because I'm a strong believer in that famous saying, is to see it to be it. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Jack and Jennifer, for sharing your experiences. One of the themes that I think you saw from both Jack and Jennifer and also from Renee is that, come up with a program, be systematic. As Renee said, take action, do something. And Jack's point and Jennifer's about, don't rely on the myths of women don't have the time to participate, don't have the interest. So some really good gems there. So to finish, I'd like to give a summary of some of the things that you can do as a male ally. First, it's about how you use your profile and role to make a difference. As an example, this could be championing change to your constitution, governance, or policies within the Federation. Could be ensuring that your management teams have a balanced gender profile, or using your media profile to raise awareness about gender equality. Secondly, it's about how you communicate about women's tennis and women in tennis. You could start by using the Advantage All toolkit to show your commitment to tackling gender inequality, or by using verbal, print, or social media to communicate more stories about women's tennis. Thirdly, it's about how you support women and girls. This could be as a sponsor or champion, or as an informal or formal mentor. It could be by ensuring more balanced opportunities, whether it's funding, programs, sponsorship, media coverage, or showcasing a role model within your nation. Or just by watching women's tennis when it's played. And finally, it's important that we all show broad support for gender equality by examining what we can do to elicit change and take action. It may be slightly different for each person depending on the circumstances. As I mentioned, we all want our Advantage All male allies to make a strong commitment to effective change. Your commitments may be organizational, such as producing a gender equality strategy or changing your governance. Or they could be personal, such as championing a female leader or supporting women's tennis in other ways. What is important is that your commitments be measurable. Make sure you set a target. What will you do? By when? And how will you measure the progress? Ask yourself, what does success look like? And when taking action, try to recruit or mobilize other people to support you. By stating your commitment publicly, you'll be more likely to achieve it. And remember to report on progress along the way. We'll be asking all the Advantage All male allies to report back on an annual basis to share their progress and their learnings. We also want to highlight and promote good practice, so when you have progress to report, please share it with the Advantage All team. I invite all the male leaders among you to join me in championing this cause by becoming an Advantage All male ally. Thank you for your attention. I hope you're now better prepared and informed about this initiative and hopefully inspired to make your commitments if you haven't already done so. Commitment forms have been sent out recently and are available from the Advantage All team at advantageall@itftennis.com. I've asked ITF Vice President Renee Stambach to chair the subcommittee of Advantage All, specifically for the Men as Allies program. If you would like to be part of this, please let us know. I'd now like to open the floor to questions from the webinar audience, and thank you for your attention.